Hi everyone, my name is Michelle, and on this channel I document my journey with stage 4 metastatic triple negative breast cancer, adrenal insufficiency, and anything else that I find interesting. So welcome, and here we go. This is my update for August 7th, 2026. We're going to recap our cycle number 7 of Trodelvy. And so we just changed our schedule. If you saw my last video, we were changing from the standard schedule dosing of day 1 and day 8 of every 21-day cycle. That's when the chemo infusions would happen. So 2 weeks on, 1 week off, and it would be, the second infusion would be followed by a Neulasta kind of bone marrow builder, immune system rebuilder injection as well. And I was experiencing still some side effects, improved from the beginning of treatment, but certainly they were still kind of prevalent in inhibiting my ability to do things and, enjoy life during those days when the side effects were prominent. And so I had a good PET scan, and my oncologist agreed to switch me to every other week. And so here we are after our first kind of cycle on every other week. And we just passed the 21-day mark yesterday. So we're on day 22 of our now 28-day cycle. We have 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off, and then we start over. So we're having infusions on days 1 and 15 of a 28-day cycle. And but I'm here at day 22 to kind of recap and compare last cycle, which was day 1 and day 8 with the Neulasta shot, to this cycle, day 1 and day 15, with a week off in between. And I can tell you, just overall, I feel a lot better. I have a lot more energy. I was able to accomplish a lot more during this cycle than I have been really since February when we started. And so I just wanted to kind of go over the side effects. And these are, this is this messy notes, but I went through, because you guys know I journal. This is my little journal that keeps track of like every side effect that I have. And I can kind of look at the month at a glance and I mark at the top of the page when my infusions were and kind of look at the clusters of side effects. And so let's take them kind of one at a time. The most inhibitive, intrusive side effects are things like GI symptoms like diarrhea or stomach spasms, nausea, reflux, fatigue, of course, brain fog, headaches, blurry vision, things that make me not be able to do the things I want to do. So we'll do GI first. And so on the day 1, and this is the last cycle I took specifically, but I did actually look back over the last several cycles that I had, day 1 and day 8. And this is very similar. These numbers are within 1 or 2 of each other. So out of 21 days, I had diarrhea 9 of those days, and stomach spasming, like the kind of stomach cramping and spasming that really makes you start to think you can't do this anymore, that needs medication even. So while I try not to take anti-diarrheal meds because then they could make me constipated, there were certainly days where I needed to, and I definitely was taking the Bentyl, which is the antispasmodic for the stomach cramping. And so 9 days out of 21 in the standard scheduling of day 1, day 8 out of 21 days. This last cycle where I did day 1 and day 15, I had maybe 1 or 2 bathroom trips. So I put 0 to 1/2 a day of diarrhea. Otherwise, no diarrhea. And I did not need to take any medication of any kind during these last 21 days. So the GI symptoms are greatly reduced. There is still some gas and bloating. There's inflammation and maybe some discomfort, little stomach ache, but no diarrhea, no constipation, no colitis, which had landed me in the hospital several times in prior cycles. Nausea. So I had nausea 20 to 21 days out of the last several cycles of day 1, day 8. 20 to 21, out of 21 days, I had some form of nausea. Now, I did not take anti-nausea medicine other than the pre-med injections, except maybe 1 or 2 times since February, because that also constipates me. The Zofran constipates me. So I want to say 1 or 2 or possibly 3 times. If I had somewhere to be and the nausea was really making me think I was going to vomit, I would take it, but rarely did I take anti-nausea meds. And usually I did not vomit. It was really just, actually, I never did actually vomit. It was really just the nausea that made me really feel like I didn't want to do anything. This last cycle, 9. So I did experience some very mild nausea. Again, I haven't taken any medication for it. I had 9 days of some mild nausea, and there were really only like 2 half days. So like 24 hours to 2 days where I really kind of said, no, I'm not going to do that thing that we were, considering going to do that was outside of the house. Mostly I just kind of was able to even push through it and get over it, or eat something or drink something that made me feel better. Electrolytes mainly would be the thing. Reflux, in the standard day 1, day 8, I had 13 days of reflux. That was, again, intrusive. I noticed it. And sometimes I would take an extra Pepsid. Sometimes I would double my dose of pantoprazole, which is my proton pump inhibitor. I take a pretty low dose on a regular basis every day, but sometimes I would double up on that if it really became something that I thought was going to like interfere with my sleep, especially, once you lay down, that can be an issue. So that went down to 7 days this last cycle of reflux. And mostly that was actually food related. I ate something that was either inflammatory that I knew was going to cause me a problem, or I didn't realize it if we ate out and I forgot to ask for light seasoning and I, got a seasoning that was a little bit more peppery than normal. I know better than that, but I had some reflux in relation to mainly things I ate. So I actually think that as time goes on, as long as this trend continues, that reflux will be even less than 7 out of the 21 days. Fatigue, 21 out of 21 for sure. With the standard day 1, day 8. We had 15 days of what I would call fatigue that was noticeable, that I needed to either really kind of pump myself up to push through, maybe take an extra dose of steroids for the adrenal issues to kind of be able to accomplish tasks during the day, or just took a nap and just said, never mind, I'm not going to do it. So we went from 21 out of 21 days to 15 out of 21 days. Brain fog, meaning like confusion or just I couldn't focus on things that I needed to do. Tasks. Brain fog also will make me a little bit more apprehensive to drive myself somewhere sometimes, just because I don't want to be out and get disoriented, because that can happen. And that went from 14 out of 21 days to 7. When I go for appointments, every appointment I go to at the cancer center, they ask me, are you having any pain today? And what would you rate it at? And from 1 to 10 or 0 to 10. And I have a little box on my journal where I write down the pain, and then underneath it I'll put location, so that I can kind of identify where the pain is. It's kind of all over pain. It's not necessarily specific. Mostly it's my back, especially if I'm trying to do things, walking, standing for too long. It'll be lower back pain. So pain in general, and I'm putting the number of days that the pain was a 4 or higher, which means it's noticeable and I might consider taking something like an anti-inflammatory. I am not on any narcotics or, prescription pain meds. I really just try and take Tylenol or Advil or a natural relief product. Actually, not in that order. It would be natural relief product first. And then depending on what the pain is, if it's a headache or if it's bone pain, Aleve or Advil would work better than Tylenol, and it's a little easier. I don't even know what's easier on the liver anymore. But so anyway, for pain 4 or higher, the number of days that I was experiencing pain 4 or higher, enough to write it down, noticing it, went from 14 to 13. So I'm still experiencing some pain, and it's the same conditions. So standing or walking for too long. I will say that in this cycle, I was walking and standing more. So it took more to get me to that 4 or higher because I was doing more. But the number of days that I had that pain or experienced it did not go down. I will have to go back and look though, because I think the number of days that I actually took medication for it did go down. Just a second. Okay, I went and looked in my book, and I counted up all the times that I had pain significant enough that I took some sort of help, whether it's the herbal relief, Tylenol, Advil, or rizatriptan for a migraine. That's what I highlighted. And I had, during the day 1, day 8 cycle, I had 17 out of 21 days where I took something. During the last 21 days, where we were on day 1 and day 15, I had 6 times that I took an additional help, whether it's the herbal relief or the Tylenol or Advil, or rizatriptan, which I took once in the last 21 days for a migraine. So that's the pain. Headache, 11 days. Was specifically a headache or a migraine in the day 1, day 8 cycle, and 6 days in the last 21 where we were day 1, day 15. Blurry vision is the next one. Blurry vision, 13 out of 21 days in the traditional, the first schedule, and in the last 21 days where we did day 1, day 15, 1 week on, 1 week off, I had 6 days of blurry vision, which were literally the 3 days after treatment, where my vision got a little blurry up close. So I wear glasses to see far away. I can see up close just fine. I can read. I don't need readers, but everything is blurry the 3 days after treatments. So that's that. So then I had 2 things that happened besides the diarrhea, because I did mention I didn't have any diarrhea this last cycle, except maybe, 1 or 2 trips to the bathroom that were very loose. But the other 2 were an elevated heart rate, which I did not have at all. I didn't experience any warnings on my watch or anything for an elevated heart rate in the last 21 days where we were on this every other week schedule. And the other one is bone pain, which comes with the new Lasta shot. And so I didn't have that the last few days. Both of those were 7 out of 21 days, and they corresponded. They were the same 7 days. And also on those 7 days, I had diarrhea. So the diarrhea, the bone pain, and the elevated heart rate seemed to coincide with a couple days after the new Lasta injection. It was days 11 to 15 or so, or 11 to 16 of the 21-day cycle. And so that tells me that this protocol, this kind of change in schedule, definitely everything is less. All the side effects are less. Fatigue is still up there. It's still, causes me to, cancel plans, but, I can push through it easier. I can do a little bit. I can actually do more things, and I'm not in as much discomfort doing this day 1, day 15, every other week schedule of Trodelvy. So that's kind of my update for now. I did also want to mention that in addition to this, the steroid taper that I do, so I have adrenal insufficiency, and for anyone this is your first video watching, that is a side effect of Keytruda immunotherapy, which was part of my first round treatments in 2023 when I was initially diagnosed with metastatic stage 3 triple negative breast cancer, and we did the standard of care then. I did 5 infusions of Keytruda, and on the 5th one, it damaged my pituitary permanently, which means I no longer make ACTH, which means I no longer produce any cortisol in my body. So I need to replace that manually for any kind of stress and just daily activities, because your body needs cortisol in order to run all of its systems. So with chemotherapy, the steroid that we get on chemo day is significantly higher than the standard replacement that I normally take. And I need to taper down from there every week or after every infusion. So when we were doing day 1, day 8, I would not quite get back to my baseline by the time we hit day 8 for the second infusion. And it would take me a long, slow time to taper down to my baseline. I would probably have 3 or 4 days of my low baseline, no stress amount of steroid before we had to do it all over again when we were on 2 weeks on, 1 week off, day 1, day 8. With this every other week, I am able to taper back down to the base faster. So this week we had some extra activities and I tried to push myself through a little bit more. So I had to go back up again a little bit this particular weekend. But I'm able to get back down to my base dose usually within a week. There aren't side effects to deal with. And so those side effects that I was experiencing caused me to have to continue to have a higher dose of steroids because that's stress on the body. And we need more cortisol to deal with any stresses on the body. Well, not having those side effects has allowed me to taper down the steroids a lot quicker. And I'll do a more in-depth video. I am planning to do a more in-depth video about steroid management and cancer treatments because I think there is a demand for that. A lot more people every day are diagnosed with immunotherapy-induced adrenal insufficiency. And this information isn't really out there about what if you're still in treatment and you need to give your body the tools that it needs in order to be able to deal with the stress of the treatment and the side effects and all that stuff. So I am very encouraged by the fact that I can taper my steroids faster on this schedule because I don't have as many side effects. And so I'm hoping that will allow me to start to lose some of the steroid weight. You can see my face is very round. I have a lot of puffiness all over. I think it contributes to the continued struggle with lymphedema in my arm. And so being able to have more days in the month on a lower dose of steroids, I think can only be a good thing for my body to start to kind of bounce back a little bit from these treatments. So all of this is encouraging. And that's pretty much the update. Have a great weekend. Get outside, put your feet in the grass, enjoy the summer before it is gone. Hopefully you'll get some cool-ish weather so it's not too hot to be outside, and we'll see you next week.